it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting the new Lord-Terminos. Yes, this is a new Lord-Terminos, the multi-part one that Games Workshop have very kindly sent to me early to build up and paint with all of you, and that is exactly what we are going to be doing today. And I've been looking forward to this one because I really like this one because of the giant sword. It's really cool. So today we're going to be painting this one up in the colours of the Celestial Vindicators. Yes, we haven't done one of these for a while, so this is kind of going to be an updated scheme, and also a little bit of the Ruination Chamber kind of vibe is going to be going on here. And we don't have any pictorial references, so we're kind of making it up as we go along, so that's going to be awesome. Anyway, we're going to jump in and we're going to start painting. He has been primed in grey Seer, and the colour we're going to be using first is Baal Red, and we're going to be applying this over the top of the outside of the robe and the outside of the cloak. So this is a change from what we've done in the past for the Celestial Vindicators, but don't worry. We have a plan. Whilst we're waiting for all that Baal Red to dry, what we're going to do, and this is a departure from the Celestial Vindicators, but definitely a really nice thing for the kind of ruination aspect, is we're going to take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this over the top of the inside of the cloak and the robes. So with that all done, the red should now all be dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Lahmian Medium and Flesh Tearer's Red. And we're going to apply this over the top. So with that Flesh Tearer's Red all applied, we're then going to take some Akhelian Green, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the Lord-Terminos' armour. And so with that Akhelian Green dry, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a roughly 2-to-1 mix of Lahmian Medium and Akhelian Green. And we're going to apply this over the top. Now this is going to make it a little bit darker than perhaps what we've done in the past for Celestial Vindicators, but that is exactly what we're after. Because it's the Ruination Chamber, baby. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Seraphim Sepia, and we're going to apply this over top of the fur pelt back here. What we are going to do is we're going to avoid the feathers. Or at least where possible. That's Seraphim Sepia applied, but then going to take some Cygor Brown, and we're going to apply this over the top of all the leather, which is again another departure. But there's already a lot of red, so to have some red leather in there as well will overbalance the miniature. So we're going to apply this over the top of all the leather, but what we're also going to do with the Cygor Brown is we're going to use this to paint in the feathers. And now, whilst we're waiting for that Cygor Brown to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Skeleton Horde and we're going to apply this over the top of all the parchment. And with that then done, we are going to add a little bit more red, only this time it's going to be slightly brighter in the form of Blood Angel's Red, and we're going to apply this over top of the grip of the sword. So with that done, the Cygor Brown should now be fully dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Reikland Fleshshade, I'm going to use this over the top of the Seraphim Sepia and the Cygor Brown on the pelt, not the plate. But what we're also going to do is we're going to use this Reikland Fleshshade to add just a tiny little bit more depth into all the Flesh Tearers red clothing. So with that Reikland Fleshshade all applied, we're then going to take some Briar Queen Chill and we're going to apply this over the top of the glass of our hourglass, just down here. Like that. And with that done, we're then going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors and we're going to apply this over the top of the chain mail, and naturally the sword blade. And with all that Iron Warriors applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour and we're going to apply this over the top of all of our remaining details. So with that all done, it's now time to add a couple of shades to the model, and the first of these is going to be some Nuln Oil. I'm going to apply this over top of the silver, and some of you will have noticed we haven't actually painted in that trim of the mail bit, so that's actually going to be white, which is why we're applying the Nuln Oil over that as well, like so. And with that all done, we're then going to take some Guilliman Flesh. I'm going to use this to shade all the gold. So with those shades applied, our Lord-Terminos is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, and he's looking pretty good. However, we are not going to leave it there. No, of course not. We're going to take him to the next level, and we're going to do this by adding some highlights. Now, the first of these is going to be some thinned down Temple Guard Blue. I'm going to be using this to highlight all the armour. And so with all of that Temple Guard Blue applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Baharroth Blue. I'm going to use this to add some little spot highlights to the sharpest corners. So with that all done, the Celestial Vindicatos armour is now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the red cloak specifically. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking some thinned down Mephiston Red. I'm going to use this to highlight. With that Mephiston Red all applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Wild Rider Red. I'm going to use this to add just a couple of little spot highlights to those red clothes. So with that all done, the red clothes are now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down white scar. I'm going to use this to do two things. One, I'm going to use this to highlight the bit of the male tabard. Down there. And the other is there's a very little twin-tailed comet up here on the helmet, which we're just going to use the white scar to pick out. Like that. So with that all done, we're now going to take some thinned down Eshin Grey. I'm going to use this to highlight the black. And so with all that Eshin Grey applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm going to use this to add a couple of little spot highlights to the black. So with that done, our next job is to take some thinned down Gorthor Brown, and we're going to use this to highlight the feathers and the leather. So what we're going to do here on the feathers is we're actually just going to add these little lines going across them. Like that. So with all that Gorthor Brown applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Karak Stone. And we're going to essentially add this as a little point on the end of each of the feathers. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Screaming Skull. And we're going to use this to highlight all the parchment. So with all that Screaming Skull applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Leadbelcher, and we're going to use this to reapply silver to this half of the sword blade. We'll also do it over the top of the flat bit in there. Like so. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just like that. So with that all done, we're then going to take some thinned down Ironbreaker. We're going to use this to highlight all of our silver details. So with that Ironbreaker all applied, we're then going to take some Baharroth Blue once again, only this time we're going to thin it down sort of 4 or 5 parts water, make it really runny, and we're going to apply this inside the runes on the blade. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to relayer basically only one area, which is this shoulder. So I'm going to use this over the top of the beak. Like so. Then on these larger open bits, just there, like that sort of thing. And so with that done, we are then going to take a roughly 2 parts Stormhost Silver to 1 part Retributor Armour mix. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the gold. So with all of that gold now highlighted, there's just 2 things left to do to finish off the Lord-Terminos, and one of them is to take some Blood Angels Red, and we're going to apply this over the top of the gems. And so with that done, our last job on the Lord-Terminos is to take some Cygor Brown. I'm going to use this to add some little text on the parchment. So with that all done, our Lord-Terminos is now finished, and I think he looks pretty fantastic. So we're going to pop him to one side, and we're going to very, very quickly run through how to paint his Memorian. Now, there won't be anything too surprising here, as we've done some Memorians before. What we're going to do, though, is we are going to change it slightly, in that we're going to take some Cygor Brown as our first colour, but we're just going to thin it down just a little bit. So we're going for a roughly 4 parts Cygor Brown to 1 part Lahmian Medium, and this is just to give us that, just to bring out that red really, and just improve the flow. And we're going to be applying this over the top of the majority of his robe, excluding the cowl. With that then done, we're going to take some Black Legion, and we're going to apply this over the top of the cowl, but we're also going to apply this over the top of the glass of the large sand timer. We're also going to apply the Black Legion over the top of his belt, And his boots. The scabbard. And the pouches. So with that all done, we're then going to take some Guilliman Flesh and we're going to apply this over the top of the skin. So with that all done, we're then going to take some Blood Angels Red. And we're going to use this over the top of the grip on the short sword. Back here. But what we're also going to do with the Blood Angels Red is we're going to apply this over the top of the robe. And so with that then done, we're going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors. And we're going to apply this over top of all of the armour. And the frame of the hourglass. With all that Iron Warriors applied, we're then going to take some Skeleton Horde and we're going to apply this over top of the parchment. And with that Skeleton Horde applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour. I'm going to apply this over the top of all of our remaining details, which are just these bits here on the back on the weapon. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil. I'm going to use this to shade the silver and the black on the hourglass. Don't worry about the hood though, but we can do this little bit of the tabard as well. And with that all done, we're then going to take some Guilliman Flesh. I'm going to use this to shade the gold. So with that all done, our Memorian is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, but of course we're not going to leave it there, no. We're going to take it to the next level. I'm going to do this by adding some highlights, and the first of these is going to be some thinned down Word Bearers Red. I'm going to use this to highlight the brown robe. And so with that done, we're then going to take some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the black details. So with all of that done, we're then going to take some thinned down Ironbreaker. I'm going to use this to highlight the silver. And so with that Ironbreaker applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to finish him off by taking some thinned down Liberator Gold. I'm going to use this to highlight the gold. And so it's been a long time coming, but we have finally added something to the Celestial Vindicators that was started way back when Dominion first came out. We did a whole bunch of painting tutorials back then, and I'm very, very glad that we got the Ruination Chamber, because it's as good a time as any to add more to the Celestial Vindicators. And what better place to start than the new plastic Lord-Terminos multi-part. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.